Frumess talks about Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Let's all talk about Halloween, Silver Shamrock. All right, so this next one was also streaming on Shudder, and here is the synopsis. It's called La Tour in French. It's a French film directed by Guillaume Nicloux. I don't know. I think it goes by the name The Tower. I saw it as Lockdown Tower was the name of it. I think I like it better as The Tower. I think that is a better name for it. Here's the synopsis. It's got low ratings on whatchamacallit, on Letterboxd, and I understand why. But man, I don't know. Okay, where do I even begin with this one? There's a lot to say. Let me tell you what the synopsis is. Which side will you choose? In the heart of the city, the inhabitants of a tower wake up one morning to find that their building is shrouded in an opaque fog, obstructing doors and windows, a strange dark matter that devours anything that tries to pass through it. Trapped, the residents try to organize themselves, but to ensure their survival, they gradually succumb to their most primitive instincts until they sink into horror. That is a perfect synopsis of what this movie is, and really also kind of doesn't do it justice. I regret watching this movie. I'm sorry that I watched it, and not because it wasn't good, although a lot of people were frustrated with this movie, and it's a very frustrating watch for certain reasons. But just because, again, with all the horror in the world, to put this on, like, this is not what Halloween is supposed to be about. You don't watch this as a Halloween watch. You watch this as like, I'm in the mood to challenge myself with some really, really serious material, and for thought, so I could provoke my own thoughts, so I could have some thought-provoking thoughts. That's why you watch a movie like this, okay? And man, it talks about this opaque fog. Basically, the tower, the world kind of ceases to exist. That's what I was reading in the comments after, and I think that's a better description of what happens. It's not that it's shrouded in a fog. It's just that the entire world vanishes, and anything that dips into the blackness is enveloped. It devours anything. So if you put your hand into the black, the darkness, whatever you want to call it, your hand is eaten off, just gone, evaporated. So anything that goes out there evaporates, basically. So these people are trapped. 150 residents are trapped in a building, and civilization just breaks down. I would actually put this in a double feature with a movie called The Divide. If you ever seen The Divide, although it's weird to think that a movie as bleak as The Divide would actually be the more uplifting film of the two. There's actually a shred of humanity in The Divide, like in the form of Michael Bihn's character is the only shred of humanity, of decency in that movie. But it's like a shred. It's enough. It's a thread to make you feel like something other than the nothingness and meaningless that you find in this film, The Tower, which I rated 3 stars on Letterboxd. It's streaming on Shudder. So here's what I wrote about it. The Tower, or Lockdown Tower, is, as it is known elsewhere, almost feels like it wasn't made by a human being, but rather some other intelligent entity seething in its contempt for what it thinks of humanity and projecting the worst kind of nihilism that existence has to offer. I know that is a really trippy thing to say, but it's so true. I don't feel like this was made by a human being. I feel like this was made by some other thing, an intelligent thing that absolutely, just as I said, seething in its contempt for humanity, sees the absolute worst of what humanity is, and then was like, that's the story I'm going to tell. And when I say that, this offers the worst picture of humanity, I really mean it. Like, you just, it comes in the form of some very simple things, but and the thing is, there's not really much of a plot. There's no plot. It's more, you just watch things break down and devolve more and more and more. And it just, it just sort of dissipates, like civilization dissipates and breaks apart in the face of great adversity. You're either going to come together as a society, or you're going to slowly devolve. And in this case, it's the latter, unfortunately. The story is painted almost entirely in metaphors, and might be the bleakest, darkest film I have ever seen. At least it is one of them. It makes Martyrs look like a Pixar film. Did you hear what I just said? This movie, if you know what I'm talking about, the French movie Martyrs, this makes Martyrs and Serbian film look like Pixar films. I stand by that statement. This film is so dark, man. And what are the metaphors I'm speaking of? It's just the idea that, like, the tower is obviously a metaphor for the world, and the darkness is, not just outer space, but just the unknown, outside of man's understanding. Everything inside of the tower the tower has limited resources, finite resources, and man can't work together to utilize said resources in order to survive and have a good quality of life, that sort of thing. The things that take place off screen are so terrible that I would put this in a listicle with a Serbian film or any of the others. So to mention a Serbian film again, that's right. What I just said, absolutely the truth. This, like I said, the things that happen in this movie are so terrible that you could put it right next to a Serbian film. I'm just gonna, say it. Baby eaters. That's it. That's the word I'm gonna use. Baby eaters. This just shows, it's funny how, the film shows these groups of people, they separate into gangs based on different floors, and what separates them is their race. So it's kind of like, it's interesting. It kind of is like jail. Like in jail, you are separated by your race mostly. That's like gross generalization. The white people, like, assuming, depending on the white people generally, group together. Black people group together. Spanish people group together. Everybody, groups based on their background. It just kind of devolves into that. And obviously, jail, what am I trying to say? Jail societies are their own complex organisms in and of itself. But, the truth is that they do have these breakdowns that are so rudimentary. And that's what happens in the tower as well. So you have, they call them the whites, they call them the blacks, on different floors. That's how they describe it in the movie. But eventually, the food becomes so scarce that they start to breed, like, people have like pet dogs and cats and cockroaches they all get turned into livestock until, I guess, they run out. And by the end of the movie, you just see a dude eating a fish bowl full of cockroaches. All of the furniture is gone. It's been burnt up, and there's no more electricity. And they walk around in the dark with little, like, lanterns. I mean, it's so bleak. And it's cold. So they wrap themselves in blankets. It's such a demoralizing movie. But again, the darkest moment comes in the form of these women who volunteer to get pregnant, and then they eat the babies. That's what they do. I mean, it's fucked. And, there's one scene, you see a little kid, and like, they don't, like, it's crazy. Like, they don't show you anything that happens to this little kid, but it's implied that, like, they let these kids grow to be toddlers, and then they harvest them. That's what they do. And, It's dark, man. Like, it's just so fucking dark. I can't even tell you. Like, it's the movie has stayed with me. Like, I don't think I could ever watch it again, but like, it'll be a long time before I forget the movie. And like I said, you know, they can't see past their differences to work together and pool their resources. So everything becomes, rarer and rarer. People trading their bodies for weed and hash. Like I said, people eating babies, people shooting each other. It's bad. The movie then, I don't care about spoil. You're not going to watch this movie. None of you going to watch this movie. Um, but the movie fast forwards, and eventually we are left. I'm not going to tell you exactly what happens, but basically, eventually even the tower itself, it gets enveloped into the darkness. Meaning, they at the very end, they walk down. She walks down to the 5th floor, and it's just darkness, which means that eventually they're going to be swallowed up. And so it's like, and that's it. The meaninglessness of life. Just like I said, the bleakest, most nihilistic film I've ever seen. I gave it 3 stars. Someone else, so again, as I was reading about it, somebody else, I can't take credit for this. Somebody else was like, yeah, they were like, yeah, obviously the darkness it's not that the tower has been enveloped in darkness. It's just that everything's disappeared and the tower is only thing left. So it's like kind of like a very Kafka-esque sort of situation. And what makes it more frustrating is like everything I just described to you, like there's so much going on in this movie, like, but you can't tell what's going on because the dialogue is so like weird. It's so sparse. And so they give you so little. And I have so many questions. I almost do want to kind of rewatch it to have a better understanding. There's like voodoo that's going on, and I don't know. I don't know, but it's a crazy movie. It's streaming on Shudder. Make sure you have something queued up that's really positive after this, because after you watch it, if you decide to watch it, because it's just so dark, it's going to make you want to just pour bleach on your eyeballs. And like I said, it's not overly violent. I mean, yeah, it's grisly, but like, it's not the violence. It's just the subject matter it's the darkest fucking movie I've ever seen. One of them. It's so bad. It's so fucking dark. All I got to do is just say baby eaters, man. Baby eaters. Fuck that shit. All right. Enough.